today we have a model who turned into AD, into a television personality, into a theater actor, and who has evolved into a sustainable social entrepreneur. And then now she is a national award winning documentary filmmaker. So happy and proud to welcome Sruti Harihara Subramaniam, a very good friend. I look up to her always and I adore her so much. Hi, Shruti.
And I adore you too. And I really look up to your journey as well. It's been quite inspiring and fascinating to see how we've literally grown together. And every time you've pivoted at every point in your life where others would have probably thought it was a roadblock. And I've loved how you're making India proud.
Oh, thank
Chennai
you.
proud.
Thank you so much, Shruti. I feel so good to interview you. Who knew?
Yeah. And a coffee date turned out this way. So even better.
That's amazing.
Thanks for calling me.
First, let's just document your journey. I would like to know how a Nigeria-born Chennai girl turned into this documentary filmmaker. How did this happen? I would like to know the journey.
I honestly don't know. I've just gone with the flow. I've just allowed the universe to guide me, I guess. I've always been passionate about being creative and, being quite a dreamy person in that sense. But for me to think that I'll be here was not really planned. It's been a step-by-step opportunity. I've been very privileged and blessed to have some of the many best opportunities come my way. And it's always me to take up a little challenge. And I always feel I'm a student. So if I don't know something, it's actually something very exciting. So when in college, I actually went for an internship to work behind the scenes for Miss Chennai. And that's when the organizers said, why work behind the scenes? Why not participate? And I was like, who, me? Because I was like, not at all conscious about how I looked, or I always saw models as somebody from another planet. And I was very happy in my very grungy clothes and going to college and just starting off college. But they were quite confident that I had something in me. And I was like, okay, this is a nice challenge. They're going to train me with things that I don't know anything about. So that's the thing about me. I think if I take up something, I get highly committed to it. So I just went, put all my efforts into it. And that made me win Miss Chennai. And that's how I landed up facing the camera. But there was always a little bit something in me which felt that I want to push myself a little bit more, see what goes on around behind the camera. So when I finished college, I joined as an assistant director. I wanted to learn on the job rather than go to a college about what goes behind the camera. And I think a bit of being in front of the camera also gave me a good perspective of what happens behind and what happens in front. So it kind of complemented each other. And then, so after working with a few directors, I thought I'm all set to go on my own. And that's when the opportunity to make A Far Afternoon, which was my first, my debut documentary film, came up. I just took it up like any other corporate film that I usually was doing around that time just to make some pocket money. But that also had its life of its own. What was meant to be a very short YouTube kind of videographing film landed up becoming a feature-length documentary. And my editor, she felt, this is a good film. Why not send it to some festivals? And for me, that whole scene was very new to me because I worked in commercial Indian films. And in fact, it was fiction films. Approach was very different from nonfiction. So I actually had to unlearn everything. The process of even marketing indie film was new to me. So the nudge came from my editor who said, this is a good film, send it for film festival. So that thought never occurred to me. And yes, so it went for a few festivals and then it won 2 national awards. So that gave me the identity as a filmmaker. And after that, I had the great opportunity to work with my guru, Mr. A.R. Rahman. And I had the great privilege to direct him in a 5-part series for Amazon. And then I had the opportunity later to promote Ponniyin Selvan films, the 2-part films. Mani sir called me and he loved Harmony and he said, I want you to take care of all the promotional content for Ponniyin Selvan. So I think in my life, if I really went aggressive and searched or said, I want this, I never got it. So I have learned to accept, to just let it be and just allow the universe to send me these opportunities and I grab it. So I don't really see is I don't strategize my career that way. Maybe I'm not doing the right thing. People might think, you've done this, then why would you do something like that? But for me, it's just about learning. So it didn't matter if I was doing promotional films after making a series because I get to learn from somebody as great as Mr. Mani Ratnam. So that's been my film journey. And parallelly, my entrepreneurial journey, I run Goli Soda, which is a sustainable based business. And I've always been a person that loves animals, loved nature, even from the age of 6. I remember I gave up meat and leather because I didn't want to hurt animals. I haven't worn a silk sari since then. So I think what I did, my entrepreneurial journey, I don't see it as something different from me. It's just an extension of me, of what I feel I need to give back to Mother Nature, because Mother Nature has given us so much. So I don't see it as something, because people say, oh, you're a filmmaker, you're an entrepreneur, how does the two thing go? I said, this is just me, both of them are my extension. This is my right hand and this is my left hand. That's how it's been.
I think, Shruti, listening to you, I feel, when you surrender yourself to the universe without any plan, just go with the flow.
Yeah.
I think the universe will cook amazing, amazing dishes for you rather than you, following a recipe and cooking something for yourself.
Yeah.
What a journey. Now that we heard your journey, I want to know what goes behind all this. I want to know first the importance of documenting something. Why something has to be documented? Because, without documentation, we lose a lot of treasures around us.
Yes.
Why is it so important to document things?
It's far more important now because the cultures are all blending together, which is a great thing. But there has been so much of art, culture, music, and so many other traditions that have been kind of solidified over many, many years. Even something like even recipes, passed down from generation to generation. And many of these have been mostly oral. It has been mostly passed down from person to person. But the society now that we are living in is so fast paced. We are all kind of culturally, we are all blended together, which is something amazing, no doubt. But what was the origin of all of this? It's very important, because after a point, even the way that culture or traditions and even sometimes even languages are being missed out in a matter of just one generation. Our children themselves are not able to speak our own mother language, mother tongue. So it's so important to kind of encode and kind of solidify these cultures in the form of documentation, because you can always look back. The best way to learn from something is always to look back, because I believe now a lot of people are now going back to, say, Ayurveda. A lot of people are decolonizing their culture, trying to find their roots. So it is very important for us to have a documentation of these things, and so that somewhere, if somebody is feeling lost, there is some message holding on somewhere that will help them move forward.
And there are so many things that are getting documented, like life journeys, processes, as
Yeah.
you said, recipes,
Yeah.
or music, journeys, everything
Yeah.
is getting documented. Out of all these that come your way, which one do you find interesting to work on?
As I said, I like a little challenge. And I think even for me, when I look back now, a lot of things are retrospective. Even if I say that I'm waiting for the universe to send me things, it's all very retrospective. I have gone through periods of frustrations and, really like almost a level of depression of what am I doing with my life. So it took a lot of spiritual growth in me to realize these things. But when I look back, I realize why was I fascinated about cinema? Why did I love cinema? I think even if it was just fiction or masala, there is a bit of documentation that's happening. Um, like in college, because we didn't have easy access to YouTube or Netflix or even DVDs, we had to pick up pirated DVDs from somewhere or borrow from someone. Why did I love watching the Iranian films? Why did I love watching some of the great Japanese, masters films? When I look back, it's all about their culture. It is the way they their houses were set up, the way they dressed, the way they served their food. I think everything in some way is kind of documented, and it needn't be a documentary film for that, in that sense. That is one of the reasons why I also started my nonprofit organization, the Cinema Resource Center, where I felt a lot of our film history is being lost in terms of even things like posters and songbooks and lobby cards and things which are great, tools to look back, not just on how films were made at that time, but even in a very social, uh, uh, even fashion. You can look back at what was the fashion during that period by just looking at old films. So there is so much content in some of these materials, and that's when we launched our nonprofit to preserve some of these film heritage of ours.
While working behind the scenes of the documentaries, like, you get a lot of facts when you do research, right? But you cannot present those facts as facts or numbers right in front of the audience. It has to be interesting. Otherwise, nobody is going to, sit and watch it for some time. So storytelling,
I myself wouldn't.
So storytelling, interesting storytelling comes in that place to play a part. How do you approach, how do you balance all these factual, messages and all these storytelling aspect, making it interesting? How do you balance these things?
When I started off making Harmony, that was my first realization, because I'm working with somebody who has a mass following, like somebody like Mr. A.R. Rahman. This is something he's doing for the first time, being in front of the camera. And we are doing for a platform as big as Amazon Prime, which was just coming into India around that time. So it took me a moment. And when I thought back, because we did months and months of research of many musicians, rare musical traditions, which we would like to feature in the series. And finally, we had to kind of filter down to 3 major, musical traditions. And then that's when I realized we are in a day and age with a lot of facts. Even in schooling, I believe schooling in some ways have become redundant, because kids just have to Google nowadays to get any facts. We ourselves do that. We don't think anymore. So there is no point in me as a filmmaker to put out there facts, because then they would just go to Google. They don't need a filmmaker. I'm a storyteller. And what's the best way to tell a story is to connect with the emotion of your audience. In Bharatanatyam, there's a term called rasa. I don't know if you are aware of that. So rasa is something where the performer is able to connect with the audience, and the audience is able to connect with the rasa, with the performer. So that's the connection called rasa. So it's the emotion that we need to target at. So I believe in most of my films, actually, if you look at, I'm not telling major facts of like, this was the year this person was born, or this was the year this happened, or this is the many things that are happening. Then that'll become just something which has to be filed, or it's just a report. I target the emotion. What is the person going through? If he is the last musician of his generation, what is his feeling? What does his child feel about it? What is the impact of if this tradition dies? Those are the kind of emotion. And the thing is, emotions are universal. You can come from any cultural background, but it's universal. So you can speak in any language, you can go through any problems, but when you are able to tap into that emotion without manipulating the audience's emotion, I feel that's when you kind of narrate the best story. And I think our grandmothers and our mothers have been the best storytellers, because even today I look at how my mother narrates stories to my daughter, and even I can't say that. I'm like, I'm supposed to be a filmmaker, I'm supposed to be a creative person, why am I not able to narrate a story like this? And you can see how children are just glued on when these stories are narrated. So I think it's all about working with emotions ultimately.
Picturizing while shooting a documentary, you work with people who are not trained actors. Shooting a movie has trained actors. They
Yes.
know where the frame is, whether they're going
Yes.
out of frame. They know
Yes.
to work inside that rectangle. But when it's a documentary, you're working with people who are mostly completely not related to
Yes.
do anything with films, right?
Yeah.
How challenging is that? How do you get them do what you want them to do?
It's not at all challenging,
Mm.
because
Yeah.
I might be an introvert, but yet I love people. I love how God created us all differently, yet unique, yet we are all connected. So it's always a joy for me to, I'm always curious about you, the other person. And I think it finally boils down to empathy. So you just have to, it's just about how you meet a person for the first time and interact. I always believe it's just about that. And you can gauge if some person's feeling a bit more tired, you give them the uh, way for that. It's like when you meet me. I mean, we've hardly met, we are good friends, but we've not physically met in a long time.
Yeah.
But you know how to talk to me just like this. So I think it's just about that. But I love the spontaneity that comes out of people, because we're all humans at the end of the day. So I try my best not to interact with the person I'm supposed to be interacting before the shoot. I always send my ADs or my research people to find out, or recce, or do as much as they can, because I don't want them to get very familiar with me, and I don't want to be familiar with
Yeah.
them. So I make it
Oh.
very spontaneous. That's my style. Sometimes it works, I hope. Sometimes maybe it doesn't work, but something else comes out beautifully. So I'll make it spontaneous, because that allows the curiosity to build between the two of us. There is a relationship that way. And yes, it's finally boiling down to empathy, I feel, because as I said, I don't want to manipulate the audience, not the people we work with. And there's a lot more responsibility that we have, because we're working with real people. Um, like recently, we have been working with some tribes, and we were very, very sure that we shouldn't, manipulate, or kind of not say this, I mean, tell the story honestly as possible. There was another time in Harmony, I think. One of our singers, we took her to a place where she learned her craft or her music, and she's not been to that space in a long time. So once she got there, she got very, very emotional, and she started to burst down crying. And everybody around me was like, roll, 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 roll. And I said, no, cut, give her that private moment. But even without that, I think we still got some beautiful moments. And even the audience kind of felt what she was feeling ultimately. So I didn't really have to show her weeping to, get the audience to weep along. So I think it boils down to empathy. I try to make things as spontaneous as possible. Um, I do a lot of, as I said, recce and research with my assistants, ask them all sorts of questions through them, and I audio record them. So it might be something unrelated, like what time do you get up? It's almost like a psychiatric kind of look, inward look into their life. What makes you happy, or where do you like to go for a quiet moment? All sorts of things I make my assistants ask them. So you kind of get a sense of that person, and you kind of, the questions you ask, if they say, I love to sing a song at the end of the day, I know how I would like to word my question so that it's not too direct and saying, please sing a song. So, yeah, there are some things which with each person it's different, and that's what makes it exciting, and definitely there are no star tantrums, so that makes things a lot more easier with real
And
people.
I think, Shruti, honestly, you work with real people, right?
Yeah.
There is always a chance that they might get intimidated by the lights, by the set, or, by
Yeah.
the setup, the number of people around them. It is you who's making them feel comfortable and let them be themselves. I think it's your aura that's working there.
I
Forget
hope
all
so.
the research that goes before and after and everything. I think it's you.
I'm very particular about I work as worship for me. So even on a set, I'm very, very particular that everybody is respecting each other. Um, not just the person facing the camera, but even with each other, whether the DOP is talking to his assistants or I'm talking to my assistants. Um, in fact, in the initial days of shooting Harmony, because you know how Tamil industry is, they are used to a certain kind of boisterous behavior or bad mouthing or swearing. And many people sometimes wonder when they come to a set who the director is, because I would be there somewhere in the corner being all timid and quiet. So they all wonder, what is she up to? And I'm very, very particular that nobody disrespects everyone. If somebody says they need to have their medicine at 2 o'clock, I make sure they go at 2 o'clock. But I think it doesn't matter. I think we've used to a certain culture. Oh, this is how it should be. But I think it's important that it's just how we have to respect any human. I think it just boils down to that. It doesn't matter if you're at a shoot. Yes, there might be things a little bit more uncomfortable on the days of the shoot. Maybe I might be a taskmaster with my ADs, because, as I said, work always comes first. So, but otherwise, I try. Uh, I mean, everybody should have a respectful, quiet, ambience. Like, I remember Mr. Kishan Khanna saying, I didn't even realize they were filming me when I was painting. So we try to be as quiet, not too loud, respecting everything around their space as well,
Filmmaking as a craft, it's filled with men. Unfortunately, that's the case in our
Yeah.
country. And as you mentioned, we, especially, for example, you and I, we look very timid.
Mhm.
We don't
Yeah.
have, like, huge built bodies.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
are petite.
Yeah.
We are soft spoken. We always have a smiling face. We don't
Yeah.
swear. How do you get a big team listen to you?
I really don't know. I got a face for so long. Let's see if I continue to be lucky. But as I said, I think again, these are things I look back retrospective. Few things when I've worked as an AD. This is a story I always narrate to people. So we were shooting in Vagaman in Kerala, very close to where my maternal family lives. So they all came over to see the shoot. And then my aunt came running to me after some time and saying, do you know, Shruti, you're the only girl here on the set. And I've been part of this set, this group, this team for over 6 months, traveling all over India. And my aunt noticed this. And I was looking around and I was like, yeah, besides the heroine, I seem to be the only girl here. Why didn't I feel the difference? I think either I was so blind or naive, but uh, and of course, maybe I've been lucky to have the right kind of team to not make me so conscious that I'm the only girl. But I think as I said, when it comes to work, I get very focused only on that. I don't care what's happening around. Maybe I don't know. We women have to prove a lot more. I don't know. We have to put in a lot more effort to prove who we are, so we kind of have to put in more effort. I don't know if it's that or it's just comes naturally to me to put in my best into everything. So I didn't realize that for a long time I was the only girl. Same with Harmony. I think we had a full team picture, and only after that somebody said, hey, you're the only one in the center and so many men, and you kind of manage. As I said, I might be timid, I might be soft on the outside, but I think I am a tough cookie. I've got the fact that I've survived in cinema, the fact that a lot of seen enough ups and downs in life has really toughened me up. And I think as women, we have this natural maternal instinct that comes in. So if my film is my baby, if something's coming in the way, then you're going to see me roar. And you can ask some of my teammates that they have seen, but it's only when they really want to mess it up, or if the film is at stake, then my maternal instinct kind of pops up. In fact, I became a mom much later in life. And I always say it's filmmaking that gave me the confidence that I can actually be a good mom. Because for a long time, I was not sure if I'll make a good mom. But when I look back and I think about how I took care of my films or took care of the team, because I remember when people like some of my DOPs, when he gets very hungry, he's going to throw a tantrum and the shot is not going to be good. So, I have to make sure that, okay, production, get the food quick. Or there were times we were in the middle of some village and the production was taking time to get the food. And we actually went to a villager and said, please give the gruel that you have to this person so that his, tantrum will come down. So, it's as a director, it's very little of creativity after a point. It's more about people management, time management, budgets, and things like that. So I think women are great at it. So it doesn't matter what people think of me. And there are times we've gone on recce and people run towards my DOP and they'll think he's the director, and so this, and they won't even consider that I'm the director. And I don't want to prove a point there. Who am I? I mean, why should I waste my energy about proving, hey, do you know who you're talking to? I'm the director. Or there will be other, department people. They'll say, Madam, so which department are you working in? And I said, boss, I'm your, director for this shoot. So, but it doesn't matter to me. Those are things where ego plays. I think finally my work should speak, and that's all I care.
Very interesting to know this perspective. Talking about harmony, I'm sure the locations must have thrown some challenges at you, because exotic locations.
Yeah.
But I'm sure those are like untouched by human in many places, right? How did you get there? What were the challenges that you faced in terms of locations?
See, when we were kind of filtering our musicians itself, there were many factors. One, of course, finally, we wanted one woman involved because all other musicians that were coming up were only men. So, one factor was, I said, we definitely need to feature a woman. Then we were also looking not just at the instruments or the music they were playing, like, are they different from each other? So if I have one wind instrument, I'll look for a percussion. So if that was one factor, similarly, the landscapes were one factor as well. So if I featured, say, a very Kerala, a green landscape, then I would want to do something different, like a mountain. And if it's mountain like Sikkim, then Manipur is a different kind of terrain. So that were other factors that we looked into while filtering. Besides that, yes, the challenges were, though we are a documentary, we are not an indie documentary in that sense. Harmony was kind of produced in a way that a film would be produced. So we had to have almost like a scheduled plan, know where all we are shooting on which day, because again, we have somebody like A.R. Rahman, we can't waste his time. We, like how for a fiction film you'll go for, song location, like we had to go look for specific location that would be suitable for our finale music. And it was not enough that visually it was okay. We had to look if the sound was suitable for live recording. So especially in hills, the cars and buses sound would go a longer way, and that would affect the sound for live recording. So we had to find locations where even the sound was suitable, and of course the logistics of getting the generator and other equipment, so which is not usually done for a documentary shoot. This was exactly produced like a film shoot in that sense. So many of these places were also not used to film shooting happening. So definitely I have to thank Kavitalaya producers who were able to execute this and gave me whatever I asked for. So there were a lot of challenges, no doubt, but I guess challenges are part of any film production. So we have faced a few of that. But I think everything comes together and it happens for the right reason, again, as I said. So we've had, things where the team went for the recce, but they didn't factor in the tractor coming up all the way. I mean, the generator coming up all the way. Then they had many people dragging it. It took half the day. And so we had very little time with Rahman to shoot the music before the sunset. But it kind of gave a nice, feel to the whole film. So, yeah, I mean, I think the life of a director is what we call as jugaad, If plan A doesn't work, plan B, C, D, and, I think it's just about thinking on your feet and what's best for the film at that moment. So, yeah, so we've had a bit of challenge, but it's also been a great experience, no doubt. I always say, um, my job has given me opportunity to go to some of these wonderful places and experience the real people there and the real culture. If I had gone as a tourist to one of these places, then I would be fed paneer butter masala rather than their original food, or have drink tea with them. I had uh, a salted tea in Sikkim. I would have never got that if I went there as tourist. So some of the great experiences I've got, and that's why, because we make such kind of films over the time. Like before that, we've also made a music video where we've gone to over 20 locations within 25 days for just one music video. And again, we've traveled across Himalayas, Rajasthan, Gujarat. We've not left a single, I think, place in India. We've gone to Araku Valley, interacted with the tribes there. So it's been a great experience. And that's why I say I shouldn't have probably kept my production house name as Happy Wanderer Films, because all our films land up make us wandering around. I mean, the funny thing is, I might be based out of Chennai, but I think in all my career, I've just shot one film, and that only because it was COVID in Chennai. Otherwise, all my films have been outside Chennai. So Happy Wanderer has really caught on with our production team, because all of us seem to be wandering. Every time they ask which city, okay, this person shooting in Bombay today or Delhi today. So but Chennai is always home, so I can never leave it, I think,
Nice.
for now.
How was it to work with A.R. Rahman? Because, I look up to him.
Oh, we all.
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Even this morning, I was watching one of his interviews and I was getting inspired. And,
Yeah.
he's amazing. How was it to work with
I
him?
always say I'm like Ekalavya, I'm always seeing him from afar and learning so much from
Like
him.
a guru?
Yeah, like a guru. And
I see him as a brother. I don't know. I get this feeling.
For me, it's always, even before, I mean, from day one when I first heard Roja till today, it's like there was a time where, for me, it's a ritual. If the first tape of his film is bought, I don't just casually listen to it in a car or a room. I lock myself. It's a spiritual moment for me. I lock myself. I don't allow anybody to disturb me. I hear the music some 2-3 times, and then I come out, out of the trance. And at that point, at every magazine clipping or a newspaper clipping that I had Rahman's interview or article, I would cut it and make a file out of it. So that's how obsessed I was with him, and I still am, because I really look up to his journey and the person he is. It's been quite surreal. So when they said you have a chance to, we have access to Rahman. Do you want to do something? Do you have to come? Do you have a concept for somebody like him? At that point, it was more about, I need to have a job next. That's the problem with us hustlers. A freelance person, after one project is done, you need to move on to the next. So for me, it was like, how can I come up with a great concept? It was more about that, and how do I better myself from my previous projects. So the focus was more about that. And my first meeting was with him was so surreal. Like, did it actually happen? Did I actually meet him? And then after that, there was no time or thought process of, oh my God, I'm working with him or anything of that. For me, it was, as I said, the maternal thing kicked in, my baby. So for me, it's like, sir, I want this, I want that. Sometimes I don't even realize I'm talking to somebody like him. And sometimes I will realize it and I would suddenly feel conscious and I'll go up to him and like, so I'm not sure if it's right, but what can I? And then he would say, you are the director. Don't ask me. You decide what was best. I know you know. I don't know if it's like a intuitiveness that he has. Like even with the first meeting itself, I still remember him telling me, oh, you know music, right? You've been learning music. I said, sort of, like any Tambram girl in Chennai sent for music class, I was sent. But, my mom always wanted me to be a singer. That's why she named me Shruti. But poor thing, she's very disappointed I didn't take her. And he very casually said, tell her you're doing something better than that. And this was on the first meeting. And there's always a room for collaboration and thinking what's best for the project with him. So every time he'll say, you know best, you're the director, why are you asking me? And I would say something, he wouldn't say twice, he'll just say, okay, let's do it, come. Of course, he'll crack some jokes. Like I remember, and he has a very, very unique sense of humor. So Sikkim, we had to make him trek down quite a bit to find the spot where we could actually record the finale music. As I said, it had to be away from the main road, no sound. And then every time, like a child, he'll like, are we there yet? Are we there yet? And I would be like, no, sir, a little bit more, little bit more. And then he would say, in Tamil, of course, he would say, okay, if you want to get back at someone, I think the best job is to be a director. So, so at that point, I really, really didn't think I was working with somebody so big like him. Of course, somewhere in the back of my head, I think it really hit me after the release, after almost a year when people was talking about it. And then there was this break because of COVID and all that. So that's when there was time to think. You're not running around, and with being a director, you have other issues that you're tackling, day-to-day problems like production and timelines that we have to stick. So many things that is more important in your head, that there's no time to think, oh my God, I'm working with A.R. Rahman. And in fact, I don't even have a proper picture with him. That's what. So every time now I keep saying, sir, let me please have a picture with you, when I meet him on other occasions, because I never got to have maybe some working still somewhere, but not like a proper, facing the camera kind of picture. That never happened because your mind is not there for that.
You were taking care of your baby.
My baby.
So this journey sounds really amazing. But in between all of these that was
Yes.
happening, when did you start thinking about sustainable way of living?